This is Australia, the sixth largest country in the world in terms of area, which is currently a victim of a huge crisis. Now, Australia is counted among the richest countries in the world, where salaries and standard of living are better than many developed countries of the world. It is much more, but this country is slowly getting trapped in a problem which can become a big headache for it in the future. Although Australia is famous all over the world because of its wildlife and beautiful coastline, kangaroos, python, and there are many types of snacks which are found only in Australia. Well, I know Australia only because of its cricket team. Steve Waugh, Ricky Ponting, Glenn McGrath, Andrew Simmons, Clyde Maxwell. For me, Australia was only about these cricket players. So I did not even know where Australia is and who these people are, but Australia is very famous in the world for one more thing, and that is its strange geography. Australia is the only country in the world completely disconnected from the rest of the world in the south of the Indian Ocean, which is also a continent. If we look at the map of Australia, then one thing is very obvious, that about 90% of the area of Australia is desert, and that is why 85% of the population of Australia lives here on the coastline of Australia. So if seen, about Australia is completely empty at 85 to 90%. And 75% of Australia's population lives in these three cities: Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. And these three cities are on the coastline of Australia. To understand this population pattern of Australia, we will have to go into history, because Australia is completely human. It has remained unknown in history and was discovered for the first time by a Dutchman named William James in 1606 when he was returning from Indonesia with trade goods. And on the way, due to a storm, his ship came to rest in the Tamar Sea. William came to see, and there he saw high mountains in the distance. This was Australia. William went back and informed everyone about this island, and this news spread very fast everywhere. Then in 1770, British explorer Captain James Cook set out on this journey with a few of his companions and stopped at Botany Bay on the eastern side of Australia. When his companions landed here, they had a fierce fight with the local people, and Captain Cook had to run back to save his life. Then after 8 years, Captain Arthur Phillips came here with 300 people on 11 ships and captured this coastline. After bringing that part under British control, he tried to discover the western side of Australia, but due to the hot climate of the desert and the intensity of thirst, many of his companions died, and he was forced to return. Australia actually became famous baths, 1851, 21 kilometers away. Huge reserves of gold were discovered in a village named. In the next 20 years, gold production was 40% of the world's gold production in Australia. All this gold would go from here to Britain, and the British government would use this gold to maintain the rate of pound in these 20 years. These years are called the years of gold rush. In these 20 years, millions of people from Europe and America came to Australia and settled in Australia. When gold was discovered, the population of Australia was 4.5 lakhs, and after 20 years in 187, this population reached 1.7 million. From 187 to 1900, Australia was divided into these 6 colonies. Then in 1901, all these colonies came together, and a country by the name of Commonwealth State of Australia came on the world map. And after this, the journey of progress of Australia started. At that time, white people in Australia. Apart from this, no one else was given immigration, and it remained like this for the next 60 years. Then finally, in 1967, the non-white immigration policy was abolished, and the criteria for immigration was removed from skin color and set to skill, after which Asia, Middle East, and Pacific thousands of people started coming and settling in Australia. Until today, people from many cultural backgrounds are coming and settling in Australia, and that is why Australia is now a multicultural country where you will find people of every race and religion. Today, Australia is the friendliest in the world. It is a country, and in terms of quality of life, it is at number 8 in the world, and that is why it is a dream country for many people of South Asia. But Australia is falling into a trap. Australia has become the least affordable country in the world in the last few years. 3 cities of Australia have come to the top in the list of countries. Sydney is the second most expensive city in the world after Hong Kong. Its housing market has played a big role in making Australia unaffordable. Till now, after watching the video, you might be thinking that there is so much vacant space in Australia, so buying a house here would be very affordable, but the reality is completely opposite. But before that, let me tell you a little about the Australian mentality. Wherever you are, owning your own home is every person's desire, but for Australians, home is a national identity. In Australia, home is considered a sign of stability and prosperity. Even today, owning a home near 70,500 Australians is their top priority and dream. But this dream is slowly becoming dead now, and let me explain why I am saying this. In 1970, the average annual salary in Sydney was $200, and at that time, the price of a normal house was around $700. By 2024, this average annual salary will be $74. This means that it is 17 times more than the salary of 1970, but on the other hand, the price of an average house today is $1.5 million, which is 80 times higher than the housing price of 1970. This means that now, if you pay your entire salary for the next 20 years, if you save, you will be able to buy a house with great difficulty because house prices will have gone up in 20 years. And this is the situation not only in Sydney, but in all the big Australian cities. Even in Australia, the people who are earning even $1 lakh only can afford houses at 13. And even for houses at 13, they have to take very high mortgages. And that is why Australian households have one of the largest debts in the world. And this situation is now getting worse, because every year, 4 lakh people are being added to the Australian population. Australia's population growth is almost double that of Canada and USA. The biggest reason for this population growth is immigration. Every year, thousands of people from China and South Asia come to Australia, some of them after years. Become an Australian national, but many people are not able to get the nationality even after spending lakhs of rupees on the degree, and they keep extending their visa by doing odd jobs and taking admission in different small colleges in the hope that someday the points will be fulfilled. And they will get PR, but to accommodate so many immigrants, the supply of houses is much less than the demand. And due to this difference of supply and demand, the prices of houses in Australia are on fire because 90 Australians are living in these houses. Live in 4 cities. The entire land is lying vacant in between, but it is not capable of growing anything there on living there. That is why only these 3-4 cities are left for this increasing population. All the jobs and universities are in these cities, so immigrants and students also come to these cities. Now, Australia has one option to impose restrictions on immigration, but doing so will have a very bad effect on Australia's own economy, because Australia, almost 17% of the economy runs because of foreign students. These are the students who come to Australia to study, so that after completing their education, they can get a job and get PR. The fees of universities in Australia are very high, and people from India, Pakistan, and China are coming here. Australia's economy gets a lot of boost from these influx of students. Secondly, Australia's own population is small to meet the industry requirements, and hence it needs labor from outside, but such labor who knows English well and has relevant skills. In such a situation, Australia cannot reduce immigration. But Australia has already made its policies very strict so that only qualified people can be given PR. In such a situation, when lakhs of people will come to Australia every year, it will become very difficult to make arrangements for their stay. Australia is now working on such plans through which water will be supplied to this desert by building dams, and fields will be grown here. But it will take many years to execute this plan. Until then, Australia will not have enough water in the cities located on this coastline. Houses will have to be built for the incoming immigrants. Until then, the immigrants will have to tolerate high rents and high housing prices. Australia is truly an example of right planning. The country that was settled only 200 years ago is today one of the top economies in the world. Let's see that. How is Australia dealing with this housing crisis? If you liked the video, then do like it and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video with another interesting topic. Till then, take care and don't forget to subscribe.